Okay, what you're looking at is the little snake cable. This was the RPM gauge that came off of the 255 Massey Ferguson tractor. It had failed on this end right here. I'll show you. You see how it's got the little square peg coming out? This is a cable that turns off of the motor's speed. It has a little gearbox on the very front of the motor on this particular tractor, and of course this end runs up to the gauge itself, and the other end had a really strong bend in it. You can see the bend right there, but had a strong bend right at the neck of it, and I think over time it eventually just gave up. But when you order one of these, you have to make sure you get it's the right size on each end and the right length. Those are the two things that you have to worry about. And even when I got the new cable, the end for the gearbox did not slide into its retaining little 4-prong peg there. So I just took a grinder and just shaved it just a little bit on all 4 corners, and it slid right in. Probably not perfect fit, but it works well. And if you can see in here, I'm trying to zoom in. The lighting is not very good. But right there is our new cable connection, and that's the gearbox that comes off the very front of the tractor, up here by your alternator and all that. That's a tight little spot to kind of get your hand into, but it's not that tight. You'll need a pair of pliers or something to just break that nut off the end, and that piece may want to slide right out. There's a little a gear head in there that'll slide out with it, and if it does, all you have to do is just kind of work it back down into the gear itself. And that happened to me with this one. No big deal, and it all just slides right down into place. Now I ran this one, if you could see, and I tied it right there to the to a hydraulic line, and went on up to the front of all the way up to the gauge. Now the way to check the gauge is if you can freely spin the gauge on the tractor. If you can take your hand up there and freely spin it, and you see the RPM needle moving, then you know your RPM gauge is functioning and working correctly. This panel right here will come off, and also it has an adjacent panel on the other side that'll come off, and then you can get up into the top of all of this, and the cable's so easy to take on and put off. It's really preparing. This will spin off. You can almost spin it off with your fingers, but if you need to, just get a pair of pliers on it. Run the cable up and get it to the gauge, and then crank it up and see what you got. But it all works, and it took maybe 30 minutes probably to do it all. Just wanted to give you an idea about what it takes to put on a new RPM cable.